What's up, YouTube? This is Darren again, coming at you from the Red Room. And I've had several people ask me about the software that I use with me and Justin's music that we create. So here it is. It is PreSonus Studio One. And it is just a very awesome program. And some people have kind of asked me to show them a little bit about how to get started with their own projects in Studio One. So today I am on the Mac because those individuals who asked me happen to use Macs. So I'm going to go ahead and get started here by just jumping in and telling you this is your start page, or what Studio One always opens up to unless you have it programmed to do something else for you when it opens. But this is the main page that you typically see when you open Studio One. You can see your past projects here. And over here, I really like this section because this tells you when there are updates to your PreSonus software. But most people, what they use Studio One for, obviously, is to create new music, which is this option here, create a new song. The difference between this and create a new project is once you have a collection of songs made, let's say, 7, 8, 9 songs for a whole album or something like that, then you will create a new project and put that collection of songs in that project. And what you're able to do there is master all of the songs as a whole, as a project, and then you're able to send it off to like a CD duplication house electronically within Studio One, or burn your own CDs right here within Studio One. So you can do all your mastering and your creation, everything all in one stop with Studio One, which truly makes it a very powerful, awesome program. But anyway, we're not going to get into mastering anything right now. What we're going to do is create a new song, because this is where you get started. When you click that link, you have a box here with several options of how you would like to work. So each one of these different options here will give you different loadouts of tracks and things when you open up a new project, so that you're ready to work. But typically I'm pretty plain Jane when it comes to making my music. I just like an empty song, because my projects kind of grow organically. I don't ever know when I'm going to need an instrument track or an audio track or something like that. So I just leave it at empty song. You can select, if you have multiple different audio interfaces, you can select different interfaces. And there's even a section, I believe, that's for user-defined options. Again, I don't get that fancy with it. So song title, it asks you to name your song right off the bat. So I'm just going to go ahead and name this right quick. I'll just call it Test. And I'm going to just save this to my desktop so I can find it easier later to delete it, because I won't need this project for anything. I'm just making it for the purpose of this video. Your options here that you can select for your audio qualities of your project. Most people are okay with 44.1 and 24-bit. Your time base, this can be changed in the project once you get started. This can also be changed, how long you want your song to be, and your BPM, your beats per minute, can also be changed after this box too. So this isn't life or death if you select something now and you think you need to change it later. So you can really leave all this however it is, and we can go from there. Stretch audio files to song tempo. So you may have some pre-existing audio files that you would like to incorporate into this new project. Well, if your new project is 140 beats per minute, then you'll want your audio files that you import into the project to match that, so that your timing is right. So Studio One does a really good job of matching those things up. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and here we have our new song. Of course, it doesn't sound very good because there's no sound. There's nothing here. It is a blank, empty song, just like I selected. So right away over here, we notice that we have our browse window open. You can also close that by clicking browse. As you start to get a project that builds up, you'll eventually need some of that extra real estate. So it's nice to be able to close that window and open it back up when you need it. So you notice that all these options here correspond with all the options here. So let's just go ahead and kind of examine the browse window here. Instruments. You look at instruments. These are more like your virtual instruments that you can control with, say, like a drum machine, like the Native Instruments machine controller, which is something that I happen to have, or if you have a USB MIDI controller, which is basically, it looks like a keyboard, but it just doesn't have any onboard sounds on it. It's basically like a remote control for the software instruments that you see here before you, like Mai Tai or Presence or Mojito. And these are all instruments that are basically, they come with Studio One, but there are myriads and myriads of companies who make software instruments that you can control with MIDI controllers, MIDI keyboards. Now, over here you have your effects. So this is where you can go to get your EQ, your delays, your amp modeling for different kind of sounds for guitar and other cool things. Again, these are all ones that are built into Studio One that PreSonus gives you, and really all of these, I encourage you to check them all out. PreSonus did a really good job with all of their plugins. They sound great, and you know they just sound great. That's all I can say about them. And then loops, they give you a whole library of different loops and things that you can play around with. Files just kind of gives you all the different files that you can find on your computer, from your desktop to your different hard drives and other things that come with Studio One. Cloud, I don't really use it a whole lot, but you can get stuff from PreSonus, their Exchange, which is kind of a cool thing I still need to check out one of these days, and even Soundcloud. And then Pool. Pool is kind of all the sounds that I think you can find in the project that you're working on, that you can basically take and drag and drop into the arranger window. And that's what's really nice about this browser window, is that anything in the browser window you can drag and drop into the arranger window. So as we look at, like, say, Mojito here, maybe you're a virtual instrument kind of person. You like to play those VSTs all the time, because I'm one of those guys. Anyway, let's take Mojito. You just drag it, you drop, you let go. There it is. And now if you have a keyboard hooked up, you could play that keyboard and make all kinds of cool sounds with that. And right away, you'll notice that the record button is armed. And if you were to record down here, you could go right into recording. Again, it's very intuitive. PreSonus made this so easy. It lends itself to those who just want to create music. So it's very, very cool. So that also is a way that you can create an instrument track. And the difference between the instrument track here as well as an audio track is, I will show you that now. Let's say you want to add vocals, or you want to add a guitar track or a bass guitar track, something like that. Well, you need to add a mono audio track. Now you'll notice the little symbol here is different than the instrument track. There's a keyboard here for the instrument track. There's a little WAV file format looking symbol there for the audio track. So that's the difference. This is for real world audio, what's coming from the real world into the digital box, your voice or your guitar. This is what's already in the box. So like the Mojito here that you're controlling and making sounds with electronically. So that's the difference between an instrument track and an audio track here. You can also create an instrument track up here in the track menu. As you can see, there's instrument track there. And then the other thing is, now let's say you want to manage these tracks. You want to turn them up and down. Well, you could do that with these volume bars here. You could very easily do that. And you see how that volume just dropped, but you saw how that was kind of difficult to try and turn stuff up and down right there. I had to click that multiple times. Well, that's where the mix window comes in handy. So I have my faders here. Makes it a little bit easier. I could even type the numbers in if I want to. And this is also where I like to do a lot of my effects processing. So let's say, for instance, I recorded a vocal on this track, and I recorded some MIDI information on this Mojito track. Well, one of the things that I might want is a delay. Okay? Well, one of the easiest ways that you could do this and save on your system resources is by creating a bus channel. And if you name the bus channel, all I did was double click on bus 1 there, and I just named it delay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop delay here. And now what's really cool is whatever that delay is set to, which you saw that pop up, you can change all those settings to how you want them. And then instead of putting this delay on this track and putting a delay on this track, I have one delay that will process the signals of both of these tracks. So I was able to go down here to send, the sends section, and just say delay. Now again, the reason this uses less system resources is because you only have one delay that's working instead of two separate delays working on these tracks. These tracks are simply just sending their signals to this one delay. So it's just a more efficient way to work. One other thing to keep in mind when you are recording audio, let's say your voice or your guitar, is when you arm this monitor button here allows you to be able to hear what's coming into the system. But sometimes because of latency, what you'll hear is an effect that sounds kind of like a double or like a delayed signal. Well, when you're recording, that can throw you off quite a bit. So one of the things that you can do to get around that is simply mute the track. So I came over here, clicked on the M, muted it. That way it just gives you your real-time signal, which helps you to be able to record much more easily. Now, let's say you did have a track here that was recorded. I'll just go and drag something from the loop section right quick here. Well, that's where, if you wanted to work with this a little more intimately, we've seen the mix window here. We've seen the browse window and what that is. If I double click on this region, or if I was to click on this edit button, it pulls up a zoomed in version of that track there. So it's a zoomed in version of the audio that you can work with now. And it's the same with an instrument track, which is basically where your MIDI information goes. I'm just going to double click right quick here. And it just created a blank region for me. And if I double click on that blank region, now here is the edit window for your MIDI information. So your notes will go in here. You can stretch them and you can do all kinds of things with them, change the velocity, things of that nature you can do all here. So now you've seen the edit window, the mix window, the browse window. You've seen how you can add an audio track and also an instrument track. So these are the basic things that you really need just to go ahead and get started with recording in Studio One. And then once you're all done with recording your track and you got it how you want it to sound, then you come to Song and you say Export Mixdown. And in here, you have all your different options of how you want to export this. So first of all, when you export it, where do you want to save it? When you get that selected, what are you going to name it? So you can name the file here. Publishing, if you have a Soundcloud account and you have your Studio One link to it, you can upload that at the same time that it's being mixed down. I usually just leave it as do not publish. I usually like to publish my stuff at a later time. And then format. Obviously, everyone knows about the different formats of files that you can convert your songs into, WAV and MP3 being kind of the most widely used, but there are other options as you can see here. You can select the quality, again, the sample rate, And here it gives you the option of the export range. So how much of the song do you want to export? I always use between loop. For me, it's just been the simplest. But it has here between song start and end marker, as well as a few other options. So basically, I'm just going to show you the one that I use just because it's simple. Between loop. So let's cancel this right quick. That is, let's say I set some loop points, which you saw how my arrows just changed to a pencil. It gives me the option to draw those loop points, which is what I just did. And this does not have to be activated for when you bounce it down, but it just simply has to be drawn. So I will go ahead and activate it so you can see it a bit easier. It's changed to blue. And when we play it, you see the cursor. It went all the way to 4 and it looped back. Simple as that. So if I was to export, then it would export from measure 1 all the way to 4 is what would be exported. So that's what between the loop means. So looking at the rest of this here, you have your output options. So bypass master effects on your master track. If you have any kind of compression or EQ or anything, all those things will be bypassed when it bounces everything down. Real-time processing, for those of you who use Pro Tools in the past, I think they've gone away from this now where you don't have to do real-time processing. But basically in Pro Tools, when you wanted to convert your file, you literally had to play the entire file from start to finish in real time, which was really annoying. But they have that option here if you would like to do it in Studio One. I never do it, and it's been fine. Close after export, that closes this window. Overlap, that's, again, that has to do with your loop points. So it's set for amount 1 second. So it will go 1 second past the end of the loop point is how much extra it would bounce. So you can set that to be 10 seconds or 50 seconds. Either way, it will bounce whatever that is for the overlap if you have that selected. And then you have import to track. So once it's done bouncing, it will turn around and import your newly mixed down track into the project. If you have this option selected here. Write tempo, basically, again, that writes your tempo information, your BPMs 140 into the file that is created. I think that makes it easier for it to be imported to other projects in Studio One or possibly even other DAWs. I haven't really played around with that too much, but I'm sure it's quite helpful. So anyway, that's how you can export your creations and listen to them outside of Studio One. So this has been a very high-level video on how to get started with Studio One, how to create different types of tracks, what the different windows are, and I really hope that this helps you all to get started making some awesome music. If you have questions or comments, leave them in the section below, and I would love to hear from you guys. And let me know if there's anything else that I can show you. And I will definitely share what knowledge I have. Not that I have that much, but I'm always a fan of sharing. So anyway, this is Darren again from the Red Room, and I am signing off, guys.